Have you ever just stopped and really looked at a window? I mean, it's just a sheet of glass, right? Simple. But what if I told you that this one seemingly simple invention is one of the most important in all of human history? Seriously, this clear barrier has totally reshaped our homes, our cities, and even how we see the universe. So let's dive into the amazing story of how we managed to tame light itself. For most of human history, we had this fundamental problem. We needed shelter to stay safe from the weather, but we also craved sunlight and a connection to the outside world. For thousands and thousands of years, any hole you cut in a wall for light was also an invitation for wind, rain, and the freezing cold. The solution to this ancient dilemma? Glass. It was this almost magical material that could let all the light in while keeping all the bad weather out. But, and this is a big but, making clear, flat glass was incredibly difficult. The very first window glass we know of is from ancient Rome, but for nearly 2,000 years after that, progress just crawled along at a snail's pace. Every little improvement was a hard-won victory in a craft that was, frankly, as much art as it was science. So one of the key early breakthroughs was something called the crown method. Just try to imagine the skill this required. A glassblower would spin a molten ball of glass on a rod so fast that it would flatten out into a disc. Now, the glass it made was clearer than anything before, but it had major drawbacks. The panes you could cut from it were small, and every single disc had this thick bullseye right in the middle where the rod was attached. It was just an unavoidable flaw. Okay, so the next big idea was the cylinder method. This was a pretty clever process that let them make bigger sheets. You'd blow a massive glass cylinder, chop off the ends, cut it down the side, and then reheat it so you could unroll it flat. It was a huge step up in size for sure, but the process of unrolling it often left the glass wavy, with stretched out bubbles. We were still a long, long way from perfect. So what does all this mean for the average person back then? Well, before the Industrial Revolution, glass was an absolute luxury. It was handmade, it was full of flaws, and it was so expensive that only the wealthiest places like huge cathedrals and royal palaces could even afford it. For pretty much everyone else, having a clear glass window was a total pipe dream. A real revolution was needed. And that leads us to the billion-dollar question that haunted the entire industry for centuries. See, all of these early methods produced imperfect glass. To get it flat, you had to manually grind and polish it, which was an unbelievably expensive and slow process. The challenge seemed impossible. How in the world do you make perfectly flat glass, perfectly, right from the very start? The answer, when it finally came, was just breathtakingly simple. It's called the float process, and the idea is pure genius. What if you could pour molten glass onto a liquid that was perfectly flat? If that liquid was also denser than glass, the glass would just float on top, spreading out under its own weight into a flawless, perfectly uniform sheet. And the secret ingredient for that perfectly flat liquid surface? Molten tin. But, a brilliant idea is one thing. Actually making it work is a whole other story. It took Sir Alistair Pilkington and his team 7 grueling years and a massive, massive financial investment to finally perfect the float process. This wasn't some simple gadget. It was a monumental feat of engineering that was about to completely change the world. And wow, did it change things fast. The float process suddenly made huge, perfect, and affordable sheets of glass a reality. And for architects, it was like a dream come true. They could finally build their visions of light-filled, open buildings. This new glass fueled the rise of modernism and gave us the iconic glass box skyscrapers that defined our cities today. We went from the tiny leaded panes of medieval times to entire buildings wrapped in a transparent skin. But the impact here isn't just in giant skyscrapers, it's right in your home. That old single pane of glass from the past, it was a terrible insulator. Today's insulated glass, on the other hand, is a technological marvel. It has these special coatings and gas fillings that can slash your energy bills by up to 40%, cut down on outside noise, and even protect your couches and carpets from fading in the sun. And it goes way beyond just buildings and comfort. The evolution of glass was absolutely critical for science itself. Think about it. Perfecting glass meant we could perfect lenses. That's what allowed Galileo to peer into the cosmos and Leeuwenhoek to discover the hidden world of microbes. And today, that same legacy lives on in the ultra-pure glass of fiber optic cables that form the backbone of the internet. Glass didn't just let us see out the window, it let us see the entire universe. And guess what? the innovation is nowhere near finished. Glass tech just keeps getting more and more incredible. We now have glass that literally cleans itself using sunlight. We have smart glass that can turn foggy for privacy with a flick of a switch. And we even have transparent glass that doubles as a solar panel, turning entire buildings into power plants. So, from this cloudy, super precious luxury to a high-tech material that has shaped our modern world, the story of window glass is really a story about human ingenuity. It solved that ancient problem of wanting both light and shelter. And in doing so, it gave us totally new ways to build, new ways to live, and new ways to understand our place in the cosmos. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other simple materials out there are just waiting for a breakthrough to change our future?